Why did the East India Company come to India? Why did they start ruling us? Why were people angry with the East India Company, and also why were they so quiet? Didn't they ever get angry? Didn't they ever rise and put up a fight? Well, yes, the East India Company did come to India to trade. Now, since the East India Company arrived on the Indian shore, the then ruling powers constantly felt threatened. This was because they were gradually losing their authority and honor. There were many changes that took place. The residents had been stationed in many courts, and rulers were slowly losing their freedom. Their armed forces had been disbanded, and their revenues and territories were being taken away. Now you can see the impact that the company had on the Indian rulers was massive. And that's the reason why many ruling families tried to negotiate with the company in order to protect their own interests. Now let's take the example of Rani Lakshmi Bai of Jhansi, who wanted the company to recognize her adopted son as the heir to the kingdom after the death of her husband. Then there was Nana Sahib, the adopted son of Peshwa Bajirao II, who pleaded that he be given his father's pension when the latter died. Now we shall be discussing these two instances in detail, but later. Now, since the company was confident of its superiority and military powers, it refused to compromise. Awadh was one of the last territories to be annexed by the company, and subsequently in 1801 a subsidiary alliance was imposed on Awadh. Now the subsidiary alliance was basically a treaty between the British East India Company and the Indian princely states, by virtue of which the Indian kingdoms lost their sovereignty to the English, and by 1856 it was completely taken over. According to the Governor General Dalhousie, this territory was being misgoverned, and he took over Awadh, saying that the British intervention was necessary. Now after the annexation of Awadh, the company planned to bring down the Mughal dynasty altogether. During the Mughal rule, the identities of the rulers were minted on coins. So the first thing that the company decided was to remove these identities from the coins. Then in 1849, Governor General Dalhousie announced that after the death of Bahadur Shah Zafar, the family of the king would be shifted out of the Red Fort and be given another place in Delhi to reside in. Later in 1856, Governor General Canning decided that Bahadur Shah Zafar would be the last Mughal king, and after his death, none of his descendants would be recognized as kings. They would just be called prince. Now these were just the ruling dynasties that were getting affected. In the countryside too, people were unhappy. Peasants and zamindars resented the high taxes and the rigid methods that were being employed to collect the revenue. Many failed to pay back their loans to the money lenders. Gradually, they lost their land. Even the Indian sepoys who were employed by the company were miserable. They were unhappy about their pay, and hardly any allowances were given to them. Also, some of the new rules violated their religious sensibilities and beliefs. Did you know that earlier seafaring was a taboo? It meant that if anyone crossed the sea, they would lose their social respectability. Also, they would be unworthy of carrying out any religious practices until they were purified of their sin. So that's why in 1824, when the sepoys were told to go to Burma by sea route, they refused. Naturally, the company officials were angry, and so the sepoys were severely punished. But still, the issue was not forgotten that easily. So in 1856, the company passed a new law which stated that every new person who took up employment in the company's army had to compulsorily agree to serve overseas if required. This led to a widespread resentment amongst the Indian sepoys. Let's have a look at this picture. It shows sepoys exchanging news and rumors in the bazaars of North India. Apart from this, the sepoys were also annoyed that the peasants were being charged exorbitantly for revenues. You see, many of the sepoys came from peasant families. So this was another reason why they were agitated by the company. Now let's take a look at this image here. It shows the revolt of the sepoys and peasants who gathered forces that spread across the plains in North India in the year 1857. From these instances, it is clear that the British not only failed to understand the Indian sentiments, but they also refused to change their tactics while dealing with them. Don't forget one thing, it takes a single spark to cause fire. Now that the stage is set, let's see what causes that spark. As you know, the people were already dissatisfied by the British rule, and the last straw came when they were forced to use beef and pig-coated rifles. Maybe things went out of hand a little, but this is what convinced them to get the British out. Still, the revolters had a massive task ahead of them if they wanted to turn the situation in their favor. For the first time, the English East India Company faced a massive rebellion. Even though it barely lasted for 2 years, it was enough to threaten the company's very presence in India. Sepoys mutinied in several places starting from Meerut, and a large number of people came together from different sections of the society and rose in rebellion. Some regard it as the biggest armed resistance to colonialism in the 19th century and anywhere in the world. Well, I hope your interest caps are still on. Good, because we have a lot more to cover, but in the next video. Until then, bye.
Tutormate. For more amazing video lectures, download the free app on Apple App Store or Google Play Store